everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be discussing Footprints Without Feet, Supplementary Reader in English for Class 10. We will now begin our 6th chapter, The Making of a Scientist by Robert W. Peterson. The story traces the early life of Richard H. Ebright, a brilliant young scientist whose curiosity, perseverance, and strong support from his mother shaped his scientific journey. From collecting butterflies as a child to publishing scientific works in college, Ebright's story shows how passion and hard work can lead to great discoveries. So, for the first part, Richard H. Ebright was the only child from Reading, Pennsylvania. He grew up with a great and deep curiosity and in eagerness to learn. Encouraged by his mother, he spent his childhood collecting butterflies, rocks, fossils, and coins. By second grade, he had already collected all 25 species of the local butterflies. His interest took a scientific turn when he read the book The Travels of Monarch X, which led him to tag and study monarch butterflies for Dr. Urquhart. To improve his research, Ebright began raising thousands of monarchs in his own basement. Observing their complete life cycles, his mother also helped him in this experiment. So his mother continued to nurture his interests by providing him tools and spending lots of evenings learning with him. She became a permanent companion for him. Ebright excelled in school and developed a deep passion for scientific investigation. This early curiosity, combined with discipline and support, ultimately led him to groundbreaking research in how cells work. His published work in a prestigious scientific journal while he was still in college. His journey shows how curiosity and work and guidance can shape a great scientist. So now you will see the first part, comprehension. So how did a book become a turning point in Richard Ebright's life? So the book Travel of Monarch X, provided by his mother. So this book became a turning point in Ebright's life because it opened the world of scientific research to him. It explained how monarch butterflies migrate and invited readers to participate in real scientific studies by tagging butterflies for Dr. Urquhart, Dr. Frederick Urquhart. So this inspired Ebright to move from simply collecting butterflies to studying them scientifically, marking the beginning of his journey as a true scientist. So how did his mother help him? So Richard Ebright's mother played the most important role in his life by shaping his scientific mind. She encouraged his curiosity and brought him books, microscopes, cameras, telescopes, and other equipment, and the moral support that he needed. And she found new projects for him when he wanted to learn something new. And she constantly motivated him to explore and learn. Her support, companionship, and belief in him helped him grow into a dedicated and successful young scientist. So now we'll go to the second part. Now what happens in the second part is, now Ebright has come to 7th grade. So in the 7th grade, Richard Ebright learned the difference between presenting information and doing real scientific research after he lost at his county science fair. So determined to improve and win, he sought advice from Dr. Urquhart and began conducting genuine scientific experiments. His projects from investigating a virus in monarch caterpillars to studying how viceroy caterpillars mimic monarchs won awards and deepened his scientific skills. In high school, Ebright's work on monarch pupae led to the discovery that gold spots on the pupa produce a hormone essential for its development. And his experiments earned top prizes at international science fairs and gave him opportunities to work while studying and in advanced research labs. So eventually, while studying X-ray photos of hormone molecules, he formed a new theory of how cells read DNA, a theory he later published with his college roommate. So Ebright excelled not only in class and in science, but also in debating, public speaking, and photography. Guided by his dedicated teacher, Mr. Vehera, he developed discipline, curiosity, and a desire to excel for the right reasons. And his journey shows how passion, perseverance, and questioning mind shaped him into a promising scientist. So we'll go to the comprehension section of this part. What lessons does Ebright learn when he does not win anything at the science fair? So, Ebright learns that real science requires more than presenting information in neat displays. He found that it is more about performing genuine experiments and getting results and answering a question or a test a hypothesis. So, losing the fair teaches him that success requires deeper investigations, original thinking, and meaningful scientific work. Next question. What experiments and projects does he undertake? So, what and all did he undertake after his first loss? So, for this, he undertook in 8th grade, he investigates the cause of a viral disease among monarch caterpillars, testing whether the beetles carry the disease and give it to the caterpillars. Then in next year, he tests the theory that viceroy butterflies, they mimic monarchs. They look in similar shapes and sizes and colors. So they mimic monarchs to avoid being eaten by birds, because monarchs are not eaten by birds because they taste bad. So viceroy on the other hand are very much food for these birds. So what did the viceroy do? They evolutioned in such a way that they mimic monarch butterflies so that the bird might exclude them as monarchs. So that one he did. Next, in high school research, he studied the purpose of 12 gold spots on a monarch pupa. And he discovered that they produce a hormone needed for development. Others assumed that they were just for beauty, for visual thing. But he found out that those yellow spots were actually responsible for producing an hormone for its development. And later research that he did, he grows butterfly wings cells in a culture to prove that they develop normally only if they are fed this hormone. So he connected the presence of those yellow spots as hormones necessary for the development of wings in butterflies. And in college, he discovered that he identified the hormones' chemical structure and developed a new theory on how cells read DNA. So all these things he did after. What are the qualities that go into making of a scientist? So what are the qualities of a scientist, you can ask? So first one is the curiosity, the never-ending questioning mind. So that kind of mind you need to have in order to become a scientist, and wanting to know how things work. Any small thing, how clouds are formed, how rain is formed, how the flower blooms, and why there are many colored flowers, and all those things. A questioning mind, a curiosity filled mind, that is required. Next is hard work and persistence. In order to gain any success, hard work is necessary. The next one is persistence. The stubborn persistence in achieving success, in achieving excellence, and finding out the answer. That strong grit is needed. So continuing even when results are slow or discouraging, you have to try the next experiment or to try the next iteration. If these values don't hold, you have to try it with new variables. That kind of behavior is needed. Next, a bright analytical mind. One to see outside the box, one to analyze thousands of data. Those kind of minds are needed to strive for an ability to solve deep and complex problems. That kind of mind is needed. Then a will to win for the right reasons. So striving for excellence, not just for prizes or coming first, but to achieve something new to this world. So that one is needed. Then discipline and dedication. Spending hours on hours on research and experiment without tiring, without thinking it is monotonous. You have to achieve it. And discipline in work. Like you have to complete your work properly. And you should not leave it haphazardly like that. You need to complete and have full faith in your work and do it correctly. Even when no one is watching, you need to give your 100%. Just because the teacher is watching behind you, you should not write neatly. And when the teacher leaves, you should not write illegibly like that. You should be your own guidance. You should be your own criticizer. You must do correct work even when no one is watching. So then you should have good observation and scientific thinking, designing experiments and thinking differently and thoughtfully and learning from failures. Okay, this plus this variables, it didn't work. I have to try something new. Let me adjust this. Let me put it in a different combination and see if this one works. So that kind of analytical mind and scientific thinking that you need, critical thinking. So together all these qualities make up a scientist. All these qualities actually shaped Ebright's future to be a remarkable young scientist. So now we'll go to the answering section. Look at the book by questions. First, think about it section. So how can one become a scientist, an economist, a historian? Does this simply involve reading many books on the subject? So, reading, more than reading is what learning is about. So, just by reading, you cannot become an expert. So, any expert you need to become in a field means it involves more than reading books and understanding them. You need to get and gain pure knowledge, true knowledge. So how that happens is, first you have to be observational. You have to notice patterns, behaviors, events, and all the phenomena around you. You need to recognize and understand them first, then monitor them. Then you have to have critical thinking, asking questions, answering them, and doing experiments of how this happens, how that happens, how this process is going to happen. And all those things form your own conclusions also, and whether they are right or wrong, and getting mentored by experts. And all those things are necessary for true learning. Then you have your practical work. You have to perform experiments. If you want to become a scientist, you have to perform experiments. And economists, they really study real life data, and they have to do many other works, and they have to analyze economic behavior, how the market is shifting, how the status is changing, and everything they need to know. And historians, on the other hand, have to examine sources, artifacts, and documents and analyze data based on that. Next one, any work, it always requires you to be curious about it. Only curiosity can help you dive deep into the subject matter. So it also evolves out your skills. Once you become curious about processes and thought processes, you will learn new skills and you will try to implement those skills in your field of work. So that is how you become an expert. Then you need consistent practice, and you need to be consistent in your work. Just like I mentioned before, if the teacher is not watching you, you should not reduce your energy level. You must be always at 100%. You have to work and give up all your energy on your work, even if no one is watching. That is how you get to become an expert in your field. And regular study, research, and hands on work also help you to gain your expertise in your subject matter. So, next question. You must have read about cells and DNA, discuss Ebright's work along with it, and if you had an opportunity, what would you work on? So, for this, you can connect your textbook concepts like cells, hormones, DNA, heredity, cell division, all those things you can connect with that, and you can mention any paragraph based on that. Next one, if you were given a choice, you can mention such as genetics or environmental science or astrophysics or anything that is related to research and experiments. You can mention those subjects. You can mention. We'll go to the next section, talk about children everywhere wonder the world about them. So they have given a few questions when we are supposed to answer it. So what is DNA fingerprinting and what are the uses of it? So DNA fingerprinting is something that is similar to reading your DNA, and it is like similar to your fingerprints, just like your fingerprints, because it is the scientific method that is used to identify a person by looking at their unique DNA. Because every human DNA is different, it is unique, except twins, because twins, identical twins, especially identical twins, have the same DNA, and others, everybody else has unique pattern of their DNA. So that one is similar to your fingerprint. Fingerprint is also different for everybody. No two person has the same fingerprint except for identical twins. So what are the uses of this? Uses is you can identify criminals and you can identify missing persons from that. You can say like they were lost at the age of 5 or something when they didn't even know their address to home or the phone numbers to their house. They were kidnapped and trafficked somewhere, and then they are found at the age of 25 or 26 like that. They don't even remember their childhood memories anymore. So those people can be helped with the help of DNA fingerprinting. By using that DNA to match with their parents, they can understand whether they truly belong to them or not. So those things. And next you can identify the bodies that were lost in disasters like tsunami, earthquakes, or any other natural disasters. People used to have tattoos and they used to rely on tattoos before, and that became a problem because the body condition may not be sufficient enough to identify through tattoos. So they used DNA for that also. Then you can mention about studying about family history and finding out whether you have any diseases in your side of the family so that you can avoid or try to take medicines for it. And those kind of things we can do with DNA printing. So all these uses we can mention. Next one is how do honeybees identify their own honeycombs? So actually honeybees have the presence of smell. So they can smell their own hives. So even if they go really far away for getting nectar from flowers, and even if there are more than one hives within their vicinity of their hive, they can smell out their own hives very perfectly and come to the correct hive. So next question, why does rain fall in drops? So the water drop molecules in the clouds, they combine together to form water droplets. And once the water droplets become very heavy, they fall out from the sky. So due to surface tension, the water molecules cling to one another. So they are in a round spherical shape. So they fall down as droplets of water and not as a sheet rain, like constant sheet rain. They don't fall like that. Next question. You must also have wondered about certain things around you. So share these questions. Like you can mention any question that you feel like you want to mention. Like why do we cry when we cut onions? And why is the carrot red? I mean orange. You can mention that because carrot comes around in 5 different colors actually. The original carrot is actually colorless. Then it was purple. Then they made hybrid carrots. Purple is there. Then there is a slight green is there. Then orange is there. Then a little more darker red is there. So that one you can ask about those kind of questions. Then you can say whether if we don't close our eyelids, can we sleep? And all those things you can ask. Why are birds not electrocuted while they are sitting on the live wires? And why do stars twinkle? And are we really alone in this universe? So all those questions you can mention. Now this brings us to the end of the story. So to conclude, the story of Richard Ebright beautifully shows how curiosity, patience and hard work can shape an ordinary child into an extraordinary scientist. His journey from collecting butterflies to making important scientific discoveries proves that real success comes from constant questioning and very much deep, curious nature for learning. So, this proves us that with support of his mother and his inspiring mentors, Ebright grew into a determined and disciplined learner. So, his life teaches us that passion and dedication and a desire to explore the unknown can lead to remarkable achievements. So, that is what the story wants to convey to us. And they have also suggested a few books to study for extra. So, the first book is Journey by Night by Nora Burke. So, this is about two brothers mostly. So, the story follows Shershing and a brave village boy who carries his dangerously ill younger brother through a dark forest at night only to reach the hospital. So, facing wild animals and fear and exhaustion, Sher Singh's courage and determination helps him save his brother. So, that is what this story is about. Next one is Children Who Made It Big by Tangamagi. So, that one, it is a chapter or it is a collection of stories that highlights real life stories of children who have achieved great success through talent, discipline, and hard work. It inspires readers by showing how young minds can overcome obstacles and make remarkable contributions to the society. So, the third one, School Days by Tom Brown. This story captures the school life of Tom Brown and his experiences in boarding school, where he learns valuable lessons about friendship, discipline, courage, and growing up. So, his encounters with both kindness and bullying shape up his character and prepare him for the life ahead. So, that is what this story is about. So, this brings us to the end of our video and our sixth story. So, if you have any queries regarding this chapter or any other chapters, previous chapters, please feel free to comment below or contact us at Go Ask Now Academy, and catch you soon in the next video. Thank you for watching.